That reminds me, when I was a lawyer, we used to have the old joke about the individual defendant who was there charged with murdering his parents, and at the end of the trial goes before the jury and asks for mercy because he's an orphan. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you really want to help the 10 seconds, sir. If you want to help your local election officials, vote no on this bad bill. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Mississippi.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 2.5 minutes to the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Rokita, who's a distinguished member of the Committee on House Administration, a former Secretary of State for the state of Indiana, and he also served as president of the National Association of Secretaries of State.
Gentleman's recognized for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman for yielding time. Listening to the prior comments, I can't help but wonder if certain members of this body can't help but not do more than one thing at a time, but certainly your secretaries of state and your local election officials can multitask, and they do an excellent job of executing the state's elections. I want to focus on the portion of the bill that eliminates the Election Assistance Commission, Mr. Speaker. As has been said, I have a unique perspective on this. In 2005, as Indiana Secretary of State and serving as the president of the National Association of Secretaries of State, I co-authored the successful resolution that was talked about earlier to dissolve the EAC after the 2006 election. As the oldest organization of bipartisan elected officials in the nation, we at NAS renewed the call to dissolve the commission in 2010. And no, Mr. Speaker, I can assure you from the debates that we had in that organization, it was not a form letter, it was not a form renewal. The vote for the renewal was 24-2, with 13 Republicans and 11 Democrats calling for its dissolution. This is not a partisan issue. We recognized on a bipartisan basis that the Election Assistance Commission cannot be justified on the grounds of fairness, justice, opportunity, or necessity. EAC bureaucrats do not make elections fair. In fact, EAC makes them less fair by producing biased, inaccurate reports on the state of elections in our nation and offering recommendations based on these junk studies. EAC bureaucrats do not enfranchise voters. States and individuals do that, as our federal Constitution dictates. Giving unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats in Washington more power over elections does not lead to more just election outcomes. If anything, it interferes with a just outcome because these bureaucrats, many with an ideological axe to grind, face little or no accountability for their actions, and they know it. Voting is fundamental to our system and the legitimacy of our government. Ensuring qualified American citizens have an opportunity to vote is essential. The Constitution tasks the states with execution and maintenance of elections, not federal bureaucrats. And like I said, Mr. Speaker, I believe states do an excellent job, and by managing elections closest to the voters at the state and local level, we stand the best chance of ensuring opportunity for all and correcting injustice if the opportunity to vote is denied or interfered with.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you.
Gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Mr. Speaker, I would now like to recognize the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Langevin, for 2 minutes.
The gentleman from Rhode Island is recognized for 2 minutes. Without objection.
Thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker, as a former Secretary of State for the state of Rhode Island and now a member of the United States Congress, I have serious concerns about this bill. Mr. Speaker, voter participation is the cornerstone of our democracy and a fundamental civic duty that empowers every citizen to effect change within our society. Unfortunately, many individuals with disabilities have been historically shut out of the voting process due to a lack of accessibility. That's among my particular concerns with this bill. Now, we have made impressive strides in recent years to close that gap, and the Election Assistance Commission, established under the Help America Vote Act, was an important part of that effort. As a member of Congress who lives with a disability, co-founder of the Bipartisan Disabilities Caucus, and has worked at both the state and federal levels to modernize and make accessible our voting systems, I find it unconscionable that the Republican leadership is considering this bill to abolish the Election Assistance Commission, an agency whose fundamental mission is to promote security, accessibility, and trust in our electoral process. Now, could the EAC use the reforms? Yes. But the Republican solution of eliminating an agency with such an important mission is unnecessary.